to buy or to build in Roatan, Honduras, you've already decided Roatan's going to be your home, or maybe your home for part of the year. And the big decision now comes, are you going to buy what's available, or are you going to buy a lot and build your dream home? There's pros and cons to both, and I can't tell you what is best for you, but let's discuss the best parts about both. And we'll start with buying a house in Roatan, Honduras, which is obviously the easiest and the fastest way to move to the island. So the thing with buying a home in Roatan, Honduras, it is a little island, so we do have little inventory. And with that, we also have inventory that is very eclectic. And so you have different styles from all over the world you will be able to find in Roatan, which is really quite amazing. Houses right next door to each other. One might be more Indo-Pacific, one might be South American, one might be North American, one might be Honduran, believe it or not. So you get a big eclectic selection, which I think is really neat, but so the real estate that we do have here can be limited and also very eclectic with the styles. So if you are looking for something specific on the island, it might be a little bit more difficult to find, even though it's going to be much, much easier to just buy a house that is already done. Then you don't have to deal with it, because with building, which we'll talk about in just a minute, you almost need to have a master class in building in Roatan. Even if you're a general contractor, a builder, wherever you're coming from, this is a different island. So it plays by much different rules. So by far the easiest option is to buy. A lot of people even decide to buy a temporary home or rent a home for a little while, or even buy. I know most people in the Lawson Rock condos, they've been temporary owners, and they've bought while they've decided to wait to build for land, or wait for that perfect house for them. Sometimes they wait and they find it. Sometimes they decide to buy land and build it themselves, but they buy kind of a temporary home kind of in the meantime, because the inventory it's a little island, so there's just not a lot of inventory, especially if you're looking for something specific. So buying a temporary home is an option that a lot of people also use, and then it can become an investment property, or you can sell it, you can do whatever you want with it. But that's kind of a lot of paths that people take. Buying, it's going to be quick, it's going to be simple, and what's best if you are buying, it's if you have time, meaning you're not just coming down for one weekend. It's going to be nearly impossible to find exactly what you want unless you see a house pop up onto the market and you're like, fly down, buy it, and then that's a beautiful story, and you make it look easy. All right, we're going to let that water truck go by. There's lots of trucks right now because there's lots of new construction where I'm walking on this nice kind of overcast day, so you can actually see my eyes and I don't have to hide behind these sunglasses. So buying is going to be your quickest, and it's going to be the simplest option. It's good to come down here frequently, and also be aware that your timeline to buy might be a little bit longer, just because we have to wait for that inventory. But while you're waiting, it's good to, be ready. It's the hurry up and wait mentality. Be ready, be prepared to maybe fly down, or if you're already here, come see the house. And then once you do find that wonderful house, it's going to take about 45 to 60 days to close. So this is by far the quickest, easiest option, and it's going to go something like getting the negotiations here tend to go maybe 1 to 2 weeks. And so compared to North America, it's kind of much slower, where you have minutes to put in an offer. The negotiation part takes maybe a week or two, unless you're just going to offer list price, and then it's easy, and you're definitely going to, hopefully going to get the property and not get in a bidding war with anyone else. You put your earnest money down, which down here we typically do 10%, which is a little bit higher than North America, which is around 1%. So do be prepared with that. The contract, it's going to be written in Spanish and in English. Make sure that you understand both. And then the buying process will go very, very similar. You will have your inspection, your due diligence periods But you have to make sure that it is written in the contract, because if it's not written in the contract, everything is as sold as is technically, unless it is specified in the contract. That's something to keep in mind. The same is true actually in Colorado, where I'm also licensed, that people don't realize unless you put that in there, you're buying it as is. So little things to think about when you buy. And then you also want to, well, if we go back to the should you wait, just kind of the hurry up and wait, rent for a while, wait for that perfect house or a house that you can kind of settle on and then fix up. A lot of times the house isn't going to be perfect just the way that you find it. So you also have to consider doing any renovations, any modifications to the house, which is also another option that will be a lot faster than building from scratch. Building from scratch, if we talk about all the amazing things with the building, because the biggest negative with building your own home is it's going to take a long time, because you have to first buy the property and then you have to build, and it's a masterclass in, well, building, and there will be lots of lessons, lots of hurdles, lots of good and bad, because you're getting exactly what you want, but you are paying for that. Because if you build a new construction house, the price per square foot will be higher than if you buy a resale. It's just kind of how it happens. So you pay a premium to get exactly that house that you want, plus your architecture, plus all the time and the effort that it takes to build a new construction house, but you're getting exactly what you want. So if we go back to buying a home, another thing to think about, if it's right for you, is, do you know who built that house? Do you know how good that house is? Do you know how the pipes look? Do you know if there's random holes in the concrete? Is there a leak in somewhere? So these are all things that you do have to consider when buying a home. I always anticipate, unless it's a condo that has an HOA, I almost always anticipate doing, I don't know, maybe 10% is high, but I would anticipate high maintenance on the house. And it's not anything to do with the current owners. It has to do with the fact that Roatan, it requires a lot of maintenance for homes, a lot more than North America or Europe. Just with the salty, really moist environment, things don't last very long. And so I would be prepared when you buy your house to also spend an additional 10% just getting the house up to par, which might seem a little odd, but something to think about when you do buy a house here. And I'm not saying to buy or to build, it's really up to you, but buying a ready-made house is going to be so much simpler. But I would anticipate 10% in maintenance, and then also renovations, which is kind of typical if you're coming from North America anyway, because it's very rare that a house is just perfect exactly the way that it is. So though those are the kind of the biggest things with buying a house versus building a custom house, which is, I'm doing a whole series on this because there's just too much to talk about in 10 minutes on building a house. And I'm documenting building a casita, which is about a 1,600, well, it's not a small house, but it's about a 1,600 square foot house. And then we will also be documenting building a nearly 4,000 square foot house. So we will be, and those are two drastically different projects. So we're going to document the whole thing. One's about a 6-month period. The other one is probably a 16 to 20 month project. So these are completely different projects, and building pretty much requires a master class and, well, in patience, calm, zen, money, making sure that your finances are good, because it's going to be a very long, drawn out process. Things will probably go over budget, and if you do build, you are paying a premium. So not including your time, the architecture fees, all the fees, everything that you're doing. New construction also costs more than resale. Even if you count in all of those resale costs that we just discussed, it still costs more to build a house than to buy it from scratch from a square footage standpoint. So just some things to think about. I can't tell you if it's better to buy or to build. We have tried to buy in Roatan for the last, Well, we've been homeowners for 11 years in Roatan, lived here 15, but we've only built, and even though I do have the luxury of time, hopefully knock on wood that I still will for many, many years to come, it's just whenever we find a project, we've just ended up building. We've been here long enough that we just know what we like, and then when something does come up onto the market, we're usually occupied with the new construction build, so then the house that we do stay on the market just doesn't work out, or it's just to a point where it's not worth it to fix it. But at the end of the day, it's completely up to you on if you buy or if you build, but they are completely different animals.